Welcome. I'm Liz Taylor, ocean explorer, naturalist, and entrepreneur.
And I'm Sylvia Earle, National Geographic explorer, founder of Mission Blue, oceanographer, and an ocean elder.
Good thing you remembered to say that.
I never forget.
That's right. This is our show, Dive In, where we host informal and open conversations with the ocean community on topics of wonder and interest. And I really want to thank everyone who's joining us today with the longer days and travel resuming for you. It's been a real challenge to schedule these, but I'm grateful that you're here. I am going to work now to share my screen.
All right.
Oh my God, it worked.
My favorite picture of all time is about to appear. Boom, there it is.
And reminds us all that
the world is blue. Haha.
So it is. So today I'm really pleased to welcome Shawn Slevin. Shawn heads up the Swim Strong Foundation. Shawn, if you can turn your camera back on.
Yeah, like heads up.
Yay, there you are. And your microphone too. Just wanted to welcome you. You're really working to help facilitate training and swim training, particularly in New York State schools. Last year around this time, we hosted an SD Vega who talked to us about his work with diversity in aquatics and the challenges that he's had bringing basic water skills, water safety skills and swimming to marginalized communities throughout Florida. And we connected with Shawn over LinkedIn, and she explained the water challenges there in New York. Almost 9 million people and 56 pools. And only, what was it, 12?
56 for 9 million people.
And only 12 of those.
Public pools.
Public pools, yeah.
Yeah, suppose you divided the number of people, by the number of pools. How many people per pool would that be?
Yeah, it'd be really tight
squeeze.
But, and then only 12 of those are like an actual swimming pool. And only 6 are available for year-round swimming. So, I mean, it's like this message that, we had to get you here to talk about this problem. So really welcome and thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you both, because I definitely am just in the presence of such great legends. I'm totally humbled and excited to be here at the same time. I don't know what to do first. So I leave myself in your good hands.
Yes, absolutely. Well, it's such a daunting task.
New York is actually, it's an island. Manhattan
Island, sure.
Yeah, it's surrounded by water. But how do you don't really want to swim in New York Harbor? I mean, some people do.
Oysters are making it better, but
it's getting there. Yeah, the Billion Oyster Project is improving things a lot fast, but it's nice to know before you go into the big pool.
Right. And, we face the same challenge here. This is one of our diving classes that we were able to get some access finally to a high school swimming pool and get a class back in the water, and, had some kids in there, and it was just great to see them, diving in.
We are mostly water. So to get in the water is such a liberating feeling to be, weightless, even though the
closest we as human beings can come to flying, right?
It is
in the water.
It's great to be diving along the edge of a drop off, and you just can kind of like leap off, sail off into it.
Even as before we're born, we're immersed in liquid.
We are marine mammals all the way around.
That's true.
I say that swimming is the only activity that literally can be done from womb to tomb.
Yes, indeed. But there's so many reasons why just these basic water safety skills are important now more than ever before. And one of the big reasons is, of course, climate change and sea level rise.
There's more water.
Yeah, there's more water. And we talked a little bit ahead of time about this problem of daylight or bright sky flooding. We talked to John Englander about that as well. But these
high tide on Main Street.
High tide, yeah, and how water suddenly can kind of inundate you on a clear sunny day.
Yes, we call it sunny day flooding here, and traditionally particularly those of us in New York City, we really never in our lifetime dealt with flooding. So to all of a sudden now have this phenomenon, all of us need new skills because we don't understand what it is. We don't know what we should be looking for in terms of making a decision. Do we go through it? Do we not go through it? We wouldn't know what to do if our tires lost traction. I mean, so many things. We just need new skills now.
Right. You see this guy over here to the side, he's thinking about, do I ride my motorbike through this water or not? And it's a valid thing. People can get in real trouble just thinking they know where the road is, or trying to gauge like how fast the water's moving. The next thing you know, they're kind of swept down the way and they can get in trouble in a big hurry. And of course, increasing storm intensity is another big one that even though we have very good improved weather, improved weather forecasting, we sometimes still kind of take for granted that we're going to be safe. And as Shawn, as you pointed out, people get into a place, it might be like on the lower floor of their house, or worse yet, in the basement.
We'll consider Katrina.
Katrina, right?
Yeah.
Broken levees, earthen dams, things like that can suddenly fail and leave us in a situation
We're
where
currently in Australia, where flooding is just storm driven, unexpectedly long and hard rains, and people are in real trouble.
right.
And frankly, Ida, which was the last storm that we had here on the East Coast in September, we knew she was coming, but we really were unexpecting the punch that she packed. She killed 91 people between New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, and Pennsylvania. And 13 of those people were my neighbors in Woodside, Queens, who drowned in their basements.
It's so sad.
So,
Sandy, that was a big wake-up call too.
yes, but that was supposed to be the once in a lifetime storm. Right? And in the past 3 years, we've been going to the Greek alphabet to continue to name the storms because there are so many of them. We can't name them all in our alphabet. It's
right.
crazy. And that's just going to continue.
It is. I mean, when I was small and we lived in Florida, we get hurricanes that would come through, and we still get caught by surprise. We had one that was not forecast to be particularly strong, and it ended up, the water coming up high enough to like drown my pet rabbit. And I was so sad about that, but it was really unexpected. We all thought we were safe, but the water came up, much faster and much higher than anyone anticipated, and we thought we did everything right, and we just failed on that one.
It sounds too, you mentioned Australia, it sounds like maybe they are experiencing a little bit of what we have. Going back to Ida, it was the first time that we understood that these heavy bursts of rain, these major rain bursts, would fall inland. Not only do we have to now worry about our coast, which we always had to do, but now we understand that rain also will happen dramatically inland, which we didn't experience before. And so quite frankly, there's no avoiding water anymore.
Right, and especially in areas that are kind of developed, there's a lot of pavement, and the rain can't even get into the earth.
Right.
So it just swooshes down.
But building on floodplains is a phenomenon. Anyway, this is cool. What's happening here, Liz?
This is another thing that I think gets people into trouble sometimes around the water. This is a peer pressure to get in the water.
You're chicken if you don't jump in.
Right. So,
or you're penguin anyway.
Yeah, you're penguin, not chicken. But we often think about the situation that happens, and it happens disproportionately with young boys. Right.
What is it?
They're at the pool, they're at the beach, and they're all kind of like, come on, man, come on, get in the water. And, you may not feel confident or whatever, but you want to be, you want to be accepted. You want
the guys. Yeah.
You want to be the guys, right? Or the gals, but you get into the water and
in over your head, so to speak.
God. but it happens, and that peer pressure is a huge problem. And, just come in, just get into your ankles, come up to your knees. And before you know it, they're really in deep, so to speak. And I think it's important for people to understand, what does drowning look like? And every time I see it in a movie, somebody's like, they're screaming, they're flailing their arms around, they're carrying on, they're, like, help me. And that's just not what it looks like. Can you tell us, Shawn, like, how does it appear
Usually happen.
and usually
Yeah.
happen?
And just before we go there, I want to just make one little comment on the male versus female drowning, just to kind of underscore the point. So 80% males versus 20% females. And the males from the age of mid-teens to mid-30s. That's a long time, right? And why? Because males generally risk seeking missiles.
That
Part of their DNA, right? And also, males seldom die singularly.
Mm.
They die in multiples because of this issue. That they're encouraging each other to some foolhardy activity. And now it's not just one person in trouble, it's multiple. And then we have multiple tragedies.
Oh, it's so sad. And it's
so unnecessary, really.
yeah,
So unnecessary.
really unnecessary. But we really want people to feel safe and secure in the water and to have these life skills.
Get acquainted with life in the sea
Yeah.
or in the lakes.
And
love the life.
And people are just so naturally curious about what's going on below the surface. What is the technology I can use to breathe underwater? Can I use a submersible?
How cool is that? Wow.
And and again, thinking about other air breathing mammals that live in the sea.
They have to come up for air.
Yes, they do.
I mean, some whales dive deep and stay underwater for much longer than humans can, but they still, like bears, like other air breathers, they have to come back to the surface.
This guy doesn't.
But it's one of the reasons that people tend to be fearful of going in the water. They're big creatures out there, but once you get to know them and realize you're not going to be eaten, the biggest challenge to survival underwater is keeping a cool head and knowing what you're doing and not panicking. And that comes from having the skills that you're talking about here, that if you've gone through what to expect and be prepared, basically.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to hurt you out there. You're more likely to hurt yourself than any creature. They're not out to get us. For
Not
sure.
at all.
We're out to get them sometimes, but we're really safe.
Yeah. And I think that, when you're out and around the water, you're around a bunch of kids at a pool or the beach, and you see somebody that, someone's just a little off, or you just feel a little concerned for them. You kind of trust your feelings, trust your senses. But the biggest thing you can do is just say, are you okay?
Yeah, somebody's out a little far away from the rest.
Yeah, just call out to them, are you okay? And if they don't come back right away and say, yes, I'm all good, that's the time to be concerned, because oftentimes it seems that people, they lose their voice, they lose their ability to to reach out, to call for help. They're just kind of like, they're struggling.
Yeah, right.
Back, you had asked earlier, what does drowning actually look like? And it is the opposite of what we see on television with the hands waving and help me, because our body shuts down, basically. And all of the body, everything is focused on getting that next breath. And so we're more likely to be almost in a rigid standing position with our hands at our side, kind of trying to push the water down so that we can come up to clear the surface to get that breath. But oftentimes, you mentioned, Liz, that you had seen, it was Gigi that mentioned she had seen somebody who did some eye contact and recognized she needed to go get them. But sometimes that's not even the case. The eyes are glazed and you just see the person kind of coming up to the surface. And that's it, just the mouth clearing the surface.
Mhm.
It's so different from what we expect.
Right.
Yeah, it really
You know, from
is.
what the visuals on the big screens are.
So safety is partly those who are able to help, plus those who need the help. It's knowing what to recognize somebody in trouble. And for buddy divers, going with someone, buddy swimmers. So somebody's
Right.
got your back, if you will, at all
Yeah.
times.
It's one of the most important things, you know, it's just, you know, it was drilled into me when I was very small. It was like, you know, don't strike out on your own. Go with a buddy, file a flight plan, tell somebody where you're going. It really can make all the difference in the world. And you
And
know, with the you know, with the sort of this acute shortage of pools, we see more and more people, they're going like straight to the big pool. You
or
know,
to
it's
the big river, or
the
to the
big
big
river,
lake. You know, I
big
mean,
lake.
all sorts of different environments. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Take the plunge.
take the plunge, and they get out. You know, naturally everybody wants to get out in the water. At least in this picture, you know, we see the little one with a you know, flotation device, which is great. But it's still, you see a lot of people out there that, you know, you have no idea like how competent they are in the water, how safe they are. The guy with the boogie board, the surfboard, you know, takes one sort of bad roll with a wave and you can get the breath knocked out of them. So again, it's that kind of awareness of everybody around you.
Or even the person who doesn't realize there's a sandbar
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
and takes a dive. We typically do that. You see everybody running into the water, right? And then that beautiful dive in. Well, if you really don't know what the topography is in that place, you could be paralyzed
Mm-hmm.
from the neck
Yeah.
down as a result of that. So important to ask your lifeguard, you know, is there anything I should be aware of at this area of the beach?
Yeah. It was always drilled into us that if you can't see the bottom, don't dive in. Go feet
Right.
first.
Feet first, absolutely.
Broken ankle is better than a broken neck.
Exactly.
Mm.
You know, and the lake, you know, lakes and rivers are, you know, a huge cooling point, resource, recreational point. They get out there on this kid's buried in the sand here, you know, that's a whole nother level of trouble. but you know, they put out these little floaty lines and things like that to kind of give some people an indication of where they, you know, what the water depth is, or where they tell kids they can go out to a certain point in the, but you know, don't go beyond the line, you know, but they do, you know.
Especially if they're told not to.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And you know, here it's like the water's always better on the other side, right?
Exactly.
They're all just like, we're gonna go, you know, we want to go on the other side of the buoy. So it's always a challenge. But I think one of the most important things people can learn how to do is just to float, you know, float correctly.
And on your back, float on your
the
back.
Yeah,
So
float
you
on your
can
back.
breathe.
Yeah. And it's one of those things that, you know, you can just practice that in any body. You can practice in your bathtub, pool, you know, anywhere, but just getting that little skill of feeling comfortable floating, because sometimes that's the best survival strategy.
Right. Not losing
Not,
your cool.
yeah, not panicking. But, you know, this is the big deal, right? When people get out to the beach. And, you know, Shawn, I know you spend a lot of time educating people about what the heck is a rip current and what do you do if you get stuck in one? Can you talk a little bit about those?
We have probably most dangerous beach, certainly in the Rockaways where I hold a program, not only in New York, it may even be in the Northeast, if not East Coast. It's really brutal. And part of it is exacerbated in a certain point because the Army Corps of Engineers had come in and dug a trench to allow ships passing from a more eastern part of the landmass coming to go out into the ocean. And so that gets people all the time. And it's a combination of the rip and a drop off. So you don't know what's going to get you first. Is it going to be the rip, or are you going to fall off the drop off and then get caught in the rip? It's just maddening. But I think what this really points to is that, any reasonable person knowing nothing, right, which is what a lot of people are for the first time they go to an ocean or even a large lake, mind you, can have rip currents. So these are not only ocean situations. But you would look at this and think, oh, this calm spot, that's where I want to be.
Right.
That kind of makes sense, right? But
Sure.
It's counterintuitive. That's not where you want to be. That's actually the rip. So what's happening here is that, so it would be this channel in the middle, the nice calm looking spot. That would be the problem. And that would draw me like a magnet, until I knew what it was, of course, because I myself have gotten caught in rips. So I don't, want to put myself into that situation for sure.
Right.
But the good news, if there can be good news about rip currents, is that they don't go on forever. They do break. And you can, if you just keep calm, as you stated earlier, that's the key, not the fight and flight situation that naturally is triggered, the panic that's triggered in us. We have to calm that down so that we can breathe and we can think about what we're doing. But we can swim out of rip currents. It's done all the time, but it is done with people, that are calm and that are able to, navigate and have the swimming skills, mind you, not people that just get caught. Because a rip current, I've seen it happen so often where somebody will say, I know I can't swim, so I'm only going to go in up to my knees. That's it. I just want to feel the water, and enjoy splashing a little bit just to get that connection to the water, which, as you say, is so critical to us as humans. But they don't even get to their knees. They, mid-calf, they're knocked off their feet and then they're swept out.
Mm-hmm.
Those rip currents are strong and
very strong.
You right out in the direction you don't want to go, away
That's
from the
right.
beach.
Seems like
But
Mexico, next stop.
Yeah, right. But isn't it so that if you kind of go with the flow and angle,
Yes.
as you point out, it doesn't go forever. You can, if you stay calm and go as much as you can at an angle, you can make your way back to the beach once you get away from the strong flow.
You can also feel the rip because it is a tide, so there's action that's going on underneath that we don't really see, but that's where the pull is. So when it breaks, when you feel that release, if you will, that's when you angle back towards shore and you'll be caught again. So this can be quite a process of, kind of flip over onto your back when you feel you're in the rip itself. Gather your strength, breathe, breathe, breathe. When you feel it releases, okay, now, swim as you can until you feel the grip again and then flip over on your back. And in that way, you will get back to shore. But you could go for a half a mile, or more. Don't be surprised.
Yeah. It's one of the real important things, I think, with, that lifeguards increasingly are starting to use a little bit of, drone technology as well.
Yes.
So they're able to, kind of help fly along the very crowded beach. It's a really super crowded day out there, or they see that there's rips developing, or it's a known area like you guys have there, and they're able to kind of help spot somebody that's in trouble and get out there to render some assistance.
I haven't seen those on New York beaches yet, though.
Yeah,
Although I would say they'd be valuable tools for sure.
Yeah, and no, I saw one that was the prototype that was being used in South America, where the drone actually carried a flotation device.
Yes, they could drop it.
It would drop it to the person and then fly back to the shore, deploying a little line out behind it to the lifeguard so they could start to sort of haul them in a bit,
Wow, that's smart
it was
thinking.
pretty cool. It was a really cool device. So
smart thinking.
Well, this is another good reason to get comfortable in the water.
Yeah, absolutely.
To just be as relaxed as you can when you can't catch your breath exactly, but swimming skills at an early age should be just one of the tools that you grow up with. So if you fall out of a boat, if you get caught on the beach, knocked over by a wave,
You famously were knocked over at age 2 on the beach, right?
no, 3.
3.
Fortunately, it was not in a rip, otherwise I might not be here.
But the wave did like knock you
me
down,
over,
and
yep.
and you jumped up and went back in. But it's
I thought, gee, wasn't that great? I'll have to do it again.
yeah. But it is, I mean, it's so frustrating to think about, kids that just have no access in school. There's they don't have a swim club, they don't have a swim team, they don't have even like basic water safety training, and it's so valuable what you're trying to bring there to the kids in New York, and especially the marginalized communities. It's just infuriating, to think about kids in the inner city that just never even had a chance to get in the water. We had the one kid who was with us and went out in one of the submersibles, who's from Washington, D.C. He lived like in a fairly coastal area. He'd never been to the shore. and they got him out snorkeling and swimming, and then we took him down in the submersible, and he was stunned.
Life-changing, I'm sure. Yes, opens
Yeah.
up a whole new world.
Yeah,
The blue world.
the blue world, exactly. But it seems that it should at least be as accessible as riding a bike or learning to drive a car. They're just kind of like skills that we take for granted, and the water skills are sometimes really left behind.
Well, I think that certainly the pandemic underscored a number of things for us. And one of those is the fact that even though your beaches and swimming pools, few as they were, and again, that was public pools. I wanted the Parks and Rec pools, okay, so just to make sure that, but those are the ones that are available to the public, right?
Right.
So they're closed. Well, you don't
Yeah.
think that stopped people from accessing the water?
Oh no.
There's a
Of
gap.
course. They went, whether it was to the beach, to the river, to the pond, to the lake. And of course, probably 9 times out of 10, or maybe 100%, were non-designated safe swimming areas.
Yeah.
So who knows what you were getting into? And that's the problem, because you can put yourself at such danger so quickly, inadvertently. And then, all of us, we're not fools. We understand that bad things can and do, of course, happen
Right.
to other people, until, of course, it happens to ourselves. And then it's too late.
Yeah.
So really do want to get people to understand questions should be popping up in their mind anytime they come to a body of water that is new to them. I'll give you a few ideas. So, is this a designated safe swimming area? Is there a lifeguard present? Do I have a buddy? And preferably a buddy that's more skilled than I am. Preferably. If I come up to the water, and as you mentioned before, I think it was you, Liz, that you look down and you can't see the bottom. You only go in feet first. So these questions should be coming up. And if the answer to these questions really are no, 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 guess what? Don't go in. Because clearly the risk is far too great relative to your knowledge base or skill base that you have. Don't put yourself in danger. It's not worth it.
Absolutely true. And we see it happen. Like this is like history repeats itself all the time. We see people go out to the national parks oftentimes, and they'll get out. Well, here, in California, we have Yosemite, and we have, some big river systems going through there, and people go out and think that they're going to, just wade in, and then that flow just carries them off, sweeps them off their feet.
Mm-hmm.
And I experienced it firsthand, and one of the most terrifying things as a mother. I had my two boys, and we were up working on a project up in the Tahoe area, and they wanted to go down and collect some debris along the riverbed. And I was just getting some stuff out of the car, and the younger one says that the older one's fallen in. I was like, what? I turned around, and here he is going down the river, and I'm sprinting along the side, yelling like a lunatic, to angle in, and he was trying to hold his camera up, and I'm like, drop the camera, just hollering at him like a psycho, and he actually listened. He floated because he'd had swimming lessons, so he's a little bit waterproofed, and he drifted in and just kind of angled himself in and caught onto a snag that was hanging out, and came ashore pretty quickly. But
there was a moment,
right?
Oh, I've got your heart in your mouth.
Oh, it was awful, and just kind of like hauled him out, and I really wished for my dog, to be there to get him, but I hadn't brought the dog on that trip. But
the camera did survive, by the way.
Yeah, it did, unbelievably. It did get wet, it was fresh waters, dried out bag of rice thing, but oh man, it was just
a lucky
terrifying.
Day for you all.
Super lucky. And if you think about if that had happened to a kid who had no water skills, he could have like flipped over
and panicked,
hit his head on a rock, just been gone down river so fast that there's nothing you could do.
But that one bad experience, countered against hundreds of good experiences.
Oh, yeah.
It's feeling comfortable in the water. We should embrace the waters of the world with affection. And
absolutely,
just my motto is no child left dry. We need to get kids out there to explore the waters of the world and feel comfortable about it. But going knowledgeably is really the key. And so applaud what you're doing.
And like in that story that I just told, the thing that really saved the day was that he had absolute comfort in the water. That we started him swimming, and he didn't panic. He was just kind of like, oh yeah, this is kind of uncomfortable. It's cold.
Really cold.
I gotta get to shore.
He was more worried about the camera.
And more worried about the camera than breathing, which was good. But
that was the mom's perspective.
But yeah, it was definitely daunting, trying to get those opportunities to kind of waterproof your kids.
Well, one of the things that I also found, at least in doing the work that I do, particularly in underserved communities, is just how many of the parents and grandparents don't swim. So this is often a generational situation. And I myself, my family came from Ireland and Scotland. I'm second generation here. My grandparents didn't swim because the waters around there were ice cold. Speak about cold, wild Atlantic, and frigid. The lakes, the rivers, everything was ice cold. And of course, it rained most of the time, so it wasn't back then. The weather has changed over there too, but it wasn't conducive to encourage you to swim. So they came to the States. My parents, I think, were self-taught. I don't even want to tell you how, because it had a lot to do with the East River. So we won't go there. And they made sure I had swimming lessons myself. But it, took 2 generations for that to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why we get everybody in the pool, because we're trying to break those generational issues and get everybody comfortable. And quite frankly, as we all know, everybody's a grandmother is not the grandmother of that particular family alone. It's the grandmother of the community, right? That's our elders, our grandparents. They are the grandparent of all in the community. So if you can get them skilled, they are the best advocates.
Yeah. And it's so good. It's so good for, aging bodies to spend time in the water, and it's very easy on the joints.
It's whole body experience.
Yeah. And it's great. I remember getting, my grandmother, your mom, into snorkeling gear at
81.
81, right?
Wow, fabulous.
Good. And it was great, you know. I just kind of went along. I was kind of walking in the water. She was snorkeling, and she kind of had hold of my arm, for stability. But you know, she was checking out the fish, and then she came back ashore and she yelled at you. She said, why didn't you take me sooner?"
And
But it
that's
was,
the comment that I get from adults, that
Yeah.
why didn't I do this sooner? When they
Yeah.
realize the sense of freedom and the sense of, you know, when they get the competency and the confidence, it
Right.
does, it opens their life so much. It
Right.
is life affirming and life changing.
So I had an experience with a group of paraplegics who were actually diving, not just swimming, but their sense of freedom on land greatly compromised. In the water, they were just like a sea
Transformed.
creature.
Yeah.
They became one with the water, and they did not feel, you know, that
Inhibited in any way, I'm sure.
they were empowered, and it was just beautiful. But we're all empowered in the water when we understand, know it, you know what to do.
Yeah.
That's the key.
And you know, we just love it. We've seen increasingly that we're getting families coming through
Mhm.
to learn scuba lessons together. You know, and when a kid is 10 years old now, they can get certified. You know, and it's like in this image, you know, our lead instructor is here with like two kids and the dad, and they're all learning to dive together. And it's just such
The
a,
kids leading the way.
yeah, it was actually, the kids are like, yeah, this can be really cool. And he's like,
We'll
I don't
teach you,
know.
Dad. It's all right.
The family that dives together stays. As we
Yeah,
say,
that's
the family
thrives
that swims
together.
together stays together. Right.
Yeah. But it's just, again, having those core competency skills that they you know, are much more likely in a, you know, kind of in an emergency situation to not panic, and to
Mhm.
be able to help others as well to not panic.
You know, and when you consider that generally speaking, most of us learn in the most stable environment when we do learn a swimming pool, right?
Mhm.
And then everything else, once you go outside of the pool, is volatile to one degree or another.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
it is about understanding the nature of the different types of water, that they have different behaviors and different dangers, and that even the most competent of swimmers needs to adapt their swimming style to that particular body of water in order to be most effective and efficient in it.
Yeah. And to like a, you know, a unanticipated situation, you know, like you talked a little bit about things like, you know, suddenly you fall through ice in a pond, you know, it's like a whole nother level.
Oh my gosh, I wouldn't have
Yeah.
known how to self-save if I didn't do the research myself.
Yeah.
I would have no
and
clue.
And I know from jumping into really super cold water that it actually just like, you can barely breathe, just like, it's a terrible feeling.
Feels like knives, must be like knives going down into
Oh,
your chest. Just
yeah.
the cold, right?
But we were on a boat, and the captain of the boat made us swim off the boat every morning before breakfast, just to give us a real sense of why we didn't want to fall in. So
Wake
he'd
up.
make us jump in.
You did fall in. This is how it feels.
This is how it feels. So he was actually trying to, like, you know, get us a little
Condition you.
bit conditioned.
Yeah.
But it was brutal. I mean, every day you woke up and you're like, oh God, I'm gonna jump off the boat. And it was just, it just sucked the air out of you. It was horrible. Jumping in there. But if you're, I mean, in a way it was actually pretty good, because we did have a real respect to stay on the boat and not fall in. But if you suddenly fell through ice, you know, what would you do?
It was also on that boat particularly helpful to be able to jump in because there was no freshwater shower.
No, there was no. And of course it was in Alaska, and so the you know, there's like a freshwater layer that sort of floated on top but it was glacial melt. It was so cold.
Cold,
So
very
cold.
But you just underlined you said a word which I think is very important to highlight, and that is respect. respect the water, respect your skills, respect your knowledge,
Right,
respect the water.
right.
If all of us would do that, we wouldn't have the enormous number of tragedies that happen
Yeah.
year after year. I mean, when you consider it, that on a global basis, a person is actually drowning every 70 seconds. And then for every death, 5 more people suffering life-altering brain and spinal cord injuries due to the water-based accidents. And I just had a news flash today that number 5 has increased to 8.
Oh,
Oh,
So we're not going in the right
Lost.
direction here.
Yeah.
So here in
Yeah.
the United States, our average daily drowning rates are 10 or 11 per day, depending upon who you're reading. And then the commensurate, whether it's 50 or it's 80, it doesn't matter, it's too many people with the brain and spinal cord injuries. And the most damning statistic of all is that 95% of these never had to happen. They were totally preventable.
right. And it's the most tragic part about it.
right.
Oh,
Knowledge is there, but it may not be conveyed in a way that people can take.
Mhm.
It's not available to them. That's what I think the beauty of your program. You're really making that knowledge more widely available and accessible, and the experiences that go along with it. So bravo.
thank you so much. And I think too, the reality, having lived through Superstorm Sandy, and then just this kind of feeling at the back of my neck that something's going on here, something is happening. And then over time, of course, that feeling solidifying, and then being able to see the research that, for example, our water levels rising 1 to 1.5 centimeters every year now. And this is going to continue, of course. And then the storm activity with not only more of them, but harder, faster. We are just in a place now where we can no longer think about water as a recreational value. We need to think about how we live with water every day.
It does make up 70% of the planet, as we see here in the big blue back
Of
of
the
the planet.
surface, of
of
the
the surface.
surface.
Yeah.
And then there's the 3-dimensional aspect. So we're looking at where 97% of Earth's water is. It's salt water. But wherever it is, water is the key to life, for sure. No water, no life.
And,
Wow, look at this.
yeah,
That's
I
a
kind of
pool.
went back. And I just had to, you hear these great stories of the
Now that's a swimming pool.
yes, this is
Wow.
this is the famous Fleischacker swimming pool in San Francisco. It was a saltwater pool. And, it was just like this incredible
Where was this
space.
located?
It was right over by the San Francisco Zoo,
Oh,
right near Ocean Beach. And, people just flocked from all around, learned to swim, recreated. It was like there used to be this real drive for swimming proficiency. It
mhm.
was a gathering place. And, right in Alameda, we had something similar. We had this Neptune Beach. Again, built, proximate to the shore, big saltwater pool, lots of different depths, diving boards, all kinds of things going on. Lifeguards nowhere to be seen, I'm afraid here, but
There's the chair, at least.
yeah, this is a chair at least. But I mean, look at the scope of this pool, and you just wonder kind of what the heck happened that we have gone away from broad access to big public pools. It's just kind of mind-boggling and perplexing.
Well, there to be
I think
done.
money certainly, is the root of a lot of this, because it's very expensive to build a pool, and certainly something of this magnitude, would
Right.
really take a lot of people's efforts financially to get that done, but also the maintenance of a facility, regardless of the size, and then of course the staffing. So you do understand on one hand that it does take money to do these things, But we all, whether at the individual level, at the city level, the state and the federal level, again, given where our world is going to become increasingly more watery, we should be building public use, multi-use facilities that can serve for training, learn to swim, up through competitive and skill-based training, lifeguards, for example, diving for the professions. We, one of the legs to our table, if you will, speaks to learning to swim for the career opportunities that provides to you. Not only in aquatics as a lifeguard, which is probably the most responsible job a young person can have. Many people's lives in your hands at the age of 16. That's wild, right? When you think about it. But to be a water safety instructor and other careers in the aquatics field, but going beyond that, we are a pipeline for first responders. We teach recruits who want to go into the military, so the Navy, the Marines, the Coast Guard. You have to pass a test in order to serve in those branches. So we have now 59 young men and women who are in service as it relates to now having those skills. But beyond that, we have 24+ as police officers, 24+ as firefighters, about 16, 17 emergency services technicians. So there are wonderful careers where you can serve your community utilizing these skills. And they pay well too. It's good.
They do it.
Earning, good livelihood.
At DOER, we work very closely with the new fire, dive and rescue, search and rescue team, and helping them with their training. And then we're just starting to get more and more first responders coming through for O2 provider and really being able to reach out into the community and do more of the CPR first aid type training as well. And there's swiftwater rescue teams now that are part of volunteer and official city first response teams. And so, to your point, there are a lot of career opportunities there that really make sense, and you can be an enormous help to your community that way.
Just to be water savvy.
Well, it starts there, doesn't it, Sylvia? That's where it starts. Because once you learn the skill and then you start understanding the surroundings that you can apply the skill in, again, your world opens up enormously.
It truly does. And you get to, put on that face mask and get that snorkel. You're kind of like that marine mammal. You have a little blowhole, right? You can, a little breathing tube, get out there and really, once you're in there and you get out there and start looking at these fish, or an octopus sticks its arm up and hey, you're really pulled in. You just don't want to come out.
And the blessing to engage. I was in the Galapagos a number of years ago now, and I actually did something very foolish where I dove off the top of the dive boat and I broke my toe. So I couldn't go with the group to do the turtle egg hunt or whatever. So I stayed and just, enjoyed the water. But I was floating on my back, just kicking. I had a pair of fins on and I was kicking in from where I guess I was heading back to the boat. And my hands were relaxed at my side. And all of a sudden I felt this bump. And it, scared the daylights out of me. And what was this? And it was a sea lion. And, he or she, whatever, wanted to play. It was like my dog. It kept coming back for more. And then it started nibbling on my fin. I still have the fin. Nobody believed this. And it actually followed me up onto the boat. And all the staff, of course, is watching this. They're hysterical. But onto the dive platform, the two of us were laying there nose to nose. This line was breathing in my air like my dog would do.
Oh, yeah.
Like my dog.
That's great.
It was crazy. But wow, what a memory. That will never fade. That will never leave.
No, not at all.
Experience.
All right. So we're going to go on to some questions. I can figure out how to stop sharing the screen. Oh, oh no. Well,
So stop sharing.
I know it says stop share, but it's
But
being,
it doesn't do it.
there we go. There we go.
There you are.
Here we are.
Now I can see better the statistics that you have brought with you that are the background. It's a good, yeah, good source of questions. Yeah.
Okay, so some of our questions here today. Caroline is asking, does sea level rise, can it come abruptly?
Not overall. I mean, it can as storm surge locally, as a tidal surge coupled with a storm surge, it can happen very quickly, right? Unexpectedly. Consider circumstances that are exceptional, like the levee breaking in around Katrina. Suddenly people were unexpectedly inundated, but generally sea level rise is a gradual process, and it doesn't seem like much on an annual basis, but over time, coupled with these other effects of storms pushing more water, and the expansion of warmer water occupying more space, the projections, it's really hard to know. By the end of this century, will it be like 18 inches or will it be 6 feet? It's a wide
That's
range
huge.
of
Yeah.
potential, depending on how fast ice melts and whether you're talking about water coming into a localized area enhanced because overall sea level is higher, but coupled with these extraordinary circumstances
Right.
pushed by the wind.
And also kind of what the typical water table in an area might be,
Correct, yeah.
because we sometimes will
How fast
see,
it drains off. Or
right,
not.
whether it drains off or not can sometimes really have a big impact. And again, where we are in Alameda, the water table is very, very high. So when we have a king tide, people suddenly have a lot of water coming into their basement, or
There's no place for the water to go.
right, the water
Yeah.
can't go anywhere. And
Mhm.
so, it can be a little more sudden or unanticipated than one might believe.
In our situation in New York City, as we were talking about Ida before, but our sewer systems, were
Oh.
built over 100 years ago, right? So they can really only accommodate 2 inches of rain per hour. So when you have more than that, where's the water going to go? Any place else that's low, right? That's where it's going. So whether that's a
Exactly.
basement, whether that's the subway, I mean, there's this picture in my mind that I wish I had the slide to share, where you see this woman going down into the subway, which I can't imagine, but she's literally walking into water that's up to chest high.
Oh my
Why
God.
is she going there?
No, don't do that.
Yeah, crazy.
Okay, so the next question. Has the number of public pools in the United States dropped? Do you think? I mean, I know that
The number of people has increased.
well, yeah, the number of people has gone up enormously. But I know, from our experience here in Alameda, and to your point, the whole problem of budgets and the cost of running some of these pools, where we are, we have this huge fight going on right now. We have this big aquatic center that's associated with one of the high schools, and they keep threatening to close it down because nobody can figure out how to pay for upgrading the pump system. And it's like 4 pools, and supports all the swim teams and all the competitive swimmers, the water polo people, all that, and that's all at risk of just having to either go away or be offsourced somewhere else just because of a budget issue.
In thinking in New York City, many pools have closed down, not just public, private pools as well. I remember my high school swim team, which I was on, we used to practice at St. John's University pool, and they closed that over. It was like a knife in the heart, because
Yeah.
they made, the became a gym.
Oh,
And that's, not unique. That story is not unique. So we need more pools, not less.
Exactly.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
For all the reasons you've been describing here.
And they can, serve kind of a double duty sometimes. I mean, even in areas where, we're seeing, again, from climate change, we're seeing increase of, wildfire danger. Some people have them as kind of backup firefighting reservoirs or,
That's right.
water sources of other kinds. So they really can serve some additional utility in addition to just helping recreation and, water therapy and so forth.
Yeah.
Okay, we got one more question. What percentage of people can actually swim?
Ooh.
I'm putting you on the spot for this one.
Thanks. I don't know that I could give you a researched answer to that. I could say anecdotally that it's far fewer people that really do have the skills and don't have the skills. But I will also say, though, even if you don't have the swimming skills, you can learn the water safety knowledge, right? Regardless of whether you have the swimming skills. I mean, I always say, swim skilled or not, all of us need to understand water very differently than we did before and develop a new relationship with it. Understanding water in our own homes and how to protect toddlers, for example. Drowning is the leading cause of death for children under the age of 5, and it's most often in their own homes. And for any of us, it only takes 2 minutes and 2 inches of water to drown any of us. Can be caught in that situation. And then, of course, once you go outside of your home, whether it's a stream or a river or a pond or a lake or the local swimming pool, to the other extreme, that big pool, the ocean, there's just so much to learn about each of those environments and what we need to know in order to be safe in it, on it, or just around it.
Or even under it.
For those of us lucky to have experienced that.
So,
and then, of course, just our world with the drowning. I'm sorry, just to finish off that thought. Again, with our world becoming so much more watery, we have the seasonal issues that we now are, have to deal with. And this, whatever it's called in different places, for us, it's sunny day flooding. You have a different name for it, but this water that's appearing in places where it never appeared before and having nothing to do with rainfall or storms, but everything to do with super moons and super tides, right?
Yeah, king tide.
King tide. So we just need the education. We really do.
Gigi's messaging me, and she says we have one person with a raised hand. Can you help us there, Gigi, with
what is the statistic?
Google
search says right here.
Oh, Google search says 54% of Americans cannot swim.
Yeah. So looks like, Sue, if you have your hand raised, you could turn your microphone on and ask your question.
Oh, there she comes.
Are you there, Sue?
The mic disappeared.
I suspect she has left the room.
She must have already left the room. Okay. We don't worry about that one then.
But don't think of that. About half of the people in this country have some swimming capability. About half do not.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's globally true. I would hope that in island countries, the percentage would be greater.
Well, I don't know. I mean, it's been my observation when we've visited a lot of the kind of small island nations. We'll see like the kids out there playing, splashing around. But many times the elders in the community, they are not. They're very wary. And
unless they work along the water.
Right.
If they work,
but even the number
commerce, that's it.
And even the number of people that are on, end up on fishing boats. When we had our we did a dive in with Ian Urbina, and he was telling us how so many of these guys are literally shanghaied, kidnapped, and end up on fishing boats in kind of a slavery situation. And even when they get close to land, many of them are afraid to kind of try to escape because they don't know how to swim.
Yeah.
And so they really are imprisoned on the boat. And if something happens to that boat, they're going to drown because they don't have any kind of water skills and they've never learned to swim.
So there's a lot to be done.
So much to be done.
In the Caribbean, for example, one of the most warmest waters, beautiful waters. And for people, so many people not to be able to enjoy the gifts that are right there for them.
Right.
Because they don't have the skills. It really breaks my heart, really.
It does. But I really want to thank you for all the work that you're doing. And we are kind of at the top of the hour and we don't have any more questions. So, oh, wait, is there one more question? Oh, we have one more question. 2 more questions. Okay, Benita says, there are many fatal accidents here in Jacksonville, Florida, either at the beach or in the St. John River. Unfortunately, there have been many times it's been a parent trying to rescue their child. So to your point, it can, out here in California, it's like every November, somebody drowns because they're trying to rescue their dog. And the dog goes in the water. The dog almost always comes back to shore, and the person drowns because they are just, so focused on that. And I've heard so many stories of that as well, where the parent who doesn't have the water skills, but they're panicked trying to save the child.
Isn't it a natural reaction?
It absolutely
See your child in trouble, so you go. You don't even think about it.
Yeah.
You become the second victim.
Yep. And it's a horrible thing. So let's get more of that water skills going.
Yes.
All right. I wonder how we could send the message, the ocean must be protected, to all the people who don't even swim. It is our life support system.
Right.
So that's the big takeaway, and taking care of the ocean, it takes care of us all.
This is true. That's a salute to the ocean, a salute to you for bringing attention to a problem that we know how to solve it. The question is just facing up to it and doing it. And it should be fun. I mean, it should be.
It's so liberating.
Yeah,
It's
a joy.
It's such a joy. It's so peaceful. Just the whole learning how to, breathe through the snorkel, through the regulator, just that relationship that people develop with the water it's beautiful to see when they get in there.
So people ask me sometimes, mindful that I've been around for a few decades, and I say, I can still breathe, so I can still swim, I can still dive, and I do. It's the great thing about getting into the water, that if you respect water and work with it, just learn what it takes to embrace it with care. The water will respond accordingly. Water doesn't care about you, but you need to figure out how to care about the ocean and waters everywhere.
Thank
Go for
both of you
There.
for your life's work in protecting the ocean and discovering more about the ocean so that we all know how to better live as good neighbors, right? And enjoy the bounty of the ocean. You are truly giants in the field. Thank you both.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today, and especially thank you to our guests and our producers, the Ocean Elders. Water truly connects us all, and we're so grateful to everyone. And we look forward to seeing you next time. And until then, remember,
We need to take care of the ocean. I'll add the waters of the world. Why?
is that our lives depend on it.
That's why.
They do.
They
They
do.
truly do. Thank you again, Shawn. Thank you, everyone. And we will see you next time. Bye for now.